Hi, this is AJ Moye, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Welcome back to the Sports Studio from the Golf Club at River Point Studios. Appreciate you joining us. And special guest, friend of the show, Ken Bikoff from Peegs.com. Ken, thanks a lot for joining us, man.
Hey, happy to be here.
Lots going on since we've spoken last. I haven't seen you since basketball season got over, but we've got beer that's going to be sold at IU next year. We've got gambling that's probably going to be going on. Just a lot of changes right now.
Yeah, there are a lot of changes, and I think that there are not a lot of negatives to them, to be honest with you. I mean, from a gambling standpoint, you know, if that's something that comes through and people are able to do that, it raises the interest in the game. I know there are people that have issues with you know, that from a personal standpoint, but it also can drag in a casual fan to pay more attention to a game. Fantasy sports certainly have done that in different areas, and I think that makes a big difference. And then, you know, from the beer standpoint, it is something that has been done elsewhere. It's been done, you know, I know in Minnesota for a long time, especially when they played at the Humphrey Dome. That was something that they sold because it was off campus. And it's also not a thing to where people are going to be going there to drink to excess. I mean, it's an extra little thing that isn't going to drive a ton of revenue, but it's an extra little thing to keep people in the game. Maybe just go ahead, we'll have a drink in there. To me, it's something that, why not? There's just no reason not to. I mean, this is 2019. It's just so ubiquitous. There's no reason not to, and I think that it's just one more little thing that could help the fan experience. It's a hot game. You want to support the team. You could grab a beer and go. You could leave the game and go outside and go have a beer. But then you're outside the stadium. And any kind of energy that could be generated for IU football is going to be a positive for the most part. And I like that Indiana's taking that step and going along with what other places have done. And you could say they're keeping up with the Joneses, but that's something Indiana football really needed to do.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about not a lot of revenue, but I think Purdue generated $500,000 off of that.
Right.
That buys some stuff, man.
Absolutely.
And it's going on outside anyway, like you talked about, the tailgating. And Indiana's one of the few places that allows halftime pass-outs. Now, I think that may change.
I think it should.
Absolutely, and I agree wholeheartedly because it has affected the second-half crowds
of
these games. And the product hadn't been quite what it needs to be, but that seems to be probably changing with the great recruiting job that Tom Allen's doing. Probably expect to see a better product on the field. So it could be just an incredible fan experience in the next couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned the talent and the recruiting. A couple of years ago, there were no four-star recruits that were coming to the program. This year, there's 3 of them coming on top of some of the talent that they got last year. And these are guys that, when you start to add that depth, you start to add guys who could help you, at just a higher level. It doesn't have to be right when they step on campus, but if they're already at a 4-star point, they don't have to develop that point. So to me, it's just so important to be able to bring in this level of recruits. And I was here when Bill Lynch was battling MAC teams for recruits and not always winning those battles. Just the overall talent that Indiana's been going after, they're willing to battle against some of the bigger programs. Kevin Wilson certainly took a step forward with that, and Tom Allen hasn't shied away from that. He wants good talent. He wants quality talent that's going to fit his program, and it's not a pie in the sky. And I'm impressed with the job that staff has done in recruiting these kids, because they don't have the results to back it up. Indiana has not cratered in any way, shape, or form. There's no 1-11 like Kevin Wilson had his first year. First 2 years of Tom Allen's tenure, 10-14 in the 2 years, 1 game short of bowl eligibility. It has been far from a mess. Now it's that matter of learning to win those games, and you need talent to win some of those games, and he's getting it.
Absolutely. And one quick thing on the beer sales, one of the things I think people may find hard to believe, but places that have implemented beer sales have had much less problems with alcohol-related incidents. Sure. And it's amazing, but it's true.
Yeah, it is. And, it's a situation where people don't think they have to load up out in the parking lot before they could come inside. And Again, it is just one of those things where it's if you take away that taboo part of it, I think it makes a big difference as well. Because, I mean, look, I went to school here. I remember smuggling beers in the stadium myself. Okay, so if somebody wants to charge me with something from 1996, you go on ahead. But it is one of those things where if you could do it, it just adds to it. To me, there's not a huge negative against it. It's been done at pro stadiums for a long time, and just because this is a college stadium, you know what? I don't think it makes that big a difference.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think it's going to be an incredible fan experience. And I kind of jumped around there at the end. We were talking about the great job that Tom Allen and his staff are doing. I've been talking about that a lot lately. I was one of many people who, when Tom Allen was hired, was the first to say, man, that's a bad hire. You can't hire somebody at this level that has no head coaching experience. And the hire, on the face of it, probably may not have been the right thing to do. But, man, he's making all of us look stupid because the recruiting job he's doing, as you talked about, with not having that success to back it up, is astounding to me because it hasn't been done at this school the way he's doing it.
No, I want to say that 3 of the top 5 all-time top-rated recruits have been added to the program in the last couple of years, and they have committed to Tom Allen. And during his year as a defensive coordinator, I know people don't like his lack of experience and didn't like that, don't like him learning on the job. Well, you know what? Indiana football has lost more games, or it has, it has not been a good program, from top to bottom. So this is the kind of job where somebody can learn on the job. And they haven't cratered. Part of that has been him just rebuilding the quarterback position, which was not left in a good situation by Kevin Wilson. And that year that Tom Allen was a coordinator, there were more than one time that year when I thought, I wish he was the head coach and not Kevin Wilson, just because Tom Allen just seemed to have so much more of a clear vision and so much of a better focus for the program and where he wanted the program to go. I understand people's frustrations with him. Hey, why don't you open it up, do a national search, do this, that, and the other. Yeah, you might have been able to get a different guy. It's not like Tom Allen would have been stolen away from you. But you know what? At that point, go ahead and gamble on it a little bit. I didn't mind the hire the day that it happened, and I haven't been as critical as other people because, again, it is just a program where you can learn on the job, and it's also Tom Allen. Kevin Wilson was going to be out of here the first opportunity he got. He went to back-to-back bowls, but if anybody would have thrown him a hint of a better job, he'd have been out of here, and you'd have been in the same situation. Well, now Tom Allen wants to bring this program back and is a relatively young guy for a head football coach. He wants to be here, and so if he gets this thing turned around, if he's able to build on the momentum he has on the recruiting trail, he's going to be the one that is here and is going to be able to build it. He's not going to be looking to bounce out of here at his first opportunity.
Absolutely right. And not only that, we can look back at some of the guys that have been hired, Kevin Wilson included, that may not have had a head coaching experience per se, but they came from big-time programs from Oklahoma.
Yeah.
You had Jerry DiNardo in here. You had Cam Cameron in here. And it didn't get done there either. So you're absolutely right. Why not take a chance on somebody that's going to be here? Tom Allen wants to be here, and obviously his passion that he's bringing is making a difference on that recruiting trail because he's astonishing me with what they're doing. It's amazing.
Well, and you look at who left the program after Kevin Wilson was hired. And you had a ton of turnover on that team, guys leaving before the season started, leaving during the season. There was a lot of upheaval. There was not a lot of upheaval, and there hasn't been a lot of upheaval since Tom Allen came, which meant that those players bought into what he was selling right off the bat. Doesn't have a ton of trouble, and you have higher-ranked recruits, bigger-time talent wanting to come and play for him. He's selling something that people are buying.
Yeah, he's got guys that are coming in from Detroit that want to be a part of this.
Yes.
Guys that are coming in from Florida that want to be a part of this.
And
it's amazing.
Not nobodies.
No.
I mean, it is some serious talent that's coming in. Talent Indiana hasn't seen, and he's been able to rebuild that quarterback position, which again, for some reason, for a guy who was as successful with Sam Bradford at Oklahoma, Kevin Wilson just did not seem to put a lot of stock or attention on the importance of the quarterback position. And right now, Indiana's going to be going into a fall camp with Peyton Ramsey having a couple of years of starting experience under his belt. Utah transfer Jack Tuttle is ready to play immediately and was impressive in the spring. And then Michael Penix showed what he could do in flashes last year. Probably should have been the starter at the start of the year last year. Wasn't, got hurt, but he's certainly going to be pushing for that starting position. So you go from 2 years ago really struggling at the most important position in sports to having a lot of very nice options, I think, that have a ton of potential.
You know, talking with our good friend Ken Bikoff from Peaks.com. Matt's on with us each week, Matt Weaver from Peaks.com, the football guru when it comes to Indiana recruiting and whatnot. And every week it's like there's another name that's coming, another name, and not just a name, but another prominent recruit that's coming in. And it just doesn't seem to be stopping for these guys.
No, and it's rolling. And the thing is you get your first, quality recruit. It makes it easier for other top recruits to go ahead and make that. And by top recruits, relative to what Indiana has gotten in the past, it makes it easier for them to say yes. Now, you certainly need a special kind of kid to come in and say, I want to be a part of building a program. It's very easy for these top guys to go to the big programs, and you see it all the time. And I understand where they're coming from. They don't want to have to struggle. They want to be there and go to a bowl and do all that. Tom Allen is selling playing time. He's selling a system that players can be successful in. He's selling also an atmosphere that makes parents comfortable, because we could send our son there and not have the kind of problems that you might see elsewhere. And that's no small thing. And, plus you throw in everything that you have in Bloomington, everything that goes along with the town, Big Ten football. It is a situation where Indiana really has an opportunity to build something very, very nice under Tom Allen. And again, he's a guy who's planning on being here for a little while longer.
Now we look at the other side of the coin, basketball, Ken. Some people could say, hey, they're really struggling in recruiting. And I wouldn't say that they're struggling from within the borders of the state. He's making the inroads. Archie Miller is making the inroads that he needs to. He's bringing in Trace Jackson Davis this year, Romeo last year, Armand Franklin, lost Keon Brooks. But the guys that are outside this program, they're still struggling to but it's not Archie Miller. I think it's how Indiana is perceived. And you wrote a great piece a while back talking about the last 25 years on how that perception made what it is, but within the fandom of Indiana is not what it is outside of those borders.
No, it's not. And there's just, the numbers prove it out. There's no question that Indiana fans love their 5 banners and love the success the Indiana program has had. It just hasn't existed for a very long time. Or if it has, it's been a year here, a year there. There hasn't been that sustained effort, and part of that has to do with the way that the previous coaching staff recruited, the lack of balance in recruiting classes over the years has made it so that you could have a senior-heavy class and then it falls off. You had guys that were brought in and certainly talented, but they weren't going to be here for very long. And they didn't have an opportunity to kind of sustain a culture. And I think Archie Miller has learned over his first couple of years here at Indiana that culture, building a roster, putting together a group of guys who play well together, is as important as just sheer talent. Because you could have, the best player in the world on your team. If the other guys don't fit well, if your bench doesn't fit well, you're not necessarily going to have the level of success that you expect. And so I think that it's important. This is going to be a very important year for Archie Miller because of the fact that he's going to be in year 3, missed the NCAA tournament the past couple of years. I liked what the team did in the NIT, and IU fans might roll their eyes at the NIT. Hey, it was a tournament. The previous year they didn't go, and they said, "Well, this is Indiana. We go to the NCAA tournament." Well, no, we haven't. And that in recent years that hasn't just been the slam dunk. Yeah, it's the bare minimum of what most people expect, and Indiana hasn't achieved that.
It's like 8 out of 11. They missed it, right?
Yeah. So I mean, let's take a good look at this. And when you talk about 8 out of 11, that means out of the last 11 years, back when incoming freshmen would have been 7 years old. So what you're talking about is 8 out of the last 11 years, Indiana hasn't been part of the NCAA tournament, which means Indiana might as well be, a program like Iowa State or those kind of programs is what Indiana really has been more like. Now, this is a big year because of the fact there has been so much turnover on the roster. I think 9 guys from last year are going to be gone. That's really important because he's been a little hamstrung in terms of remaking his roster for APR issues, just trying to get the pieces to fit together. Guys who were recruited by the previous staff to play a certain way who haven't completely bought into what Archie Miller's trying to do. Now he's able to have 2 classes of his recruits in, and the third one coming in, quality talent in Trace Jackson Davis, second straight Mr. Basketball in the state of Indiana to come to IU. So that talent is still there, and they're able to kind of just continue to build on the culture that Indiana has. And Archie Miller, certainly is going to be facing a serious season this year because fans want to see results, and I do too. People ask me all the time, what do I think about Archie Miller? It's a wait-and-see thing because you've seen incremental improvement, but not as much as you want. And it's with Joey Brunk, the addition of the center from Butler. He's a kid that's going to be able to step in and help them right away and balance the classes, Jim. That's going to be important. With the guys that they lost last year, you don't want to just dump a bunch of freshmen in, and they might end up with a scholarship open, which I think is perfectly fine. Again, the previous coaching staff just threw scholarships around like it was nobody's business. This staff has a much better vision of what they want it to look like, and they're not willing to use scholarships just to get warm bodies.
And especially, follow up on that, they've got 2 open scholarships that may or may not even get used this year.
Exactly. And that's, as long as they're disciplined with how they're using their scholarships and putting the puzzle pieces together, I think that's going to be just critical.
Ken Bikoff from Peaks.com. Can't thank you enough, man. We appreciate you as always.
Happy to come on.
Hey, thanks for listening to the rebroadcast from today's edition of Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle, the only daily show dedicated to Indiana University athletics. You can catch us live each weekday on IndianaSportsBeat.com, TheDailyHoosier.com, GruelingTruth.com, or go to Spreaker.com for live notifications. Yeah, that's speaker with an R, SPREAKER.com. You can also catch the entire show any place you listen to a podcast, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Play, etc. You can find and follow the show on Facebook or follow me on Twitter at Jim Coyle ISB for complete coverage of the Indiana Hoosiers. Thanks again. I hope you have a great day. I'm Jim Coyle, and I will see you on the radio.